welcome back. This is another episode of the Exodus Project. I'm your host, Steve Eisenhower, and I'm joined with my good friend Davon Mays from Clouds of Torah.
How you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
And after quite a hiatus, we are going to begin the finale of The Beast, culminate this series we've been talking about for the last few months. But before we get started, everyone, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, give Davon and I a big thumbs up, and check the description for any resources you may need. Share this screen. We can get going. The Beast, Clouds of Torah and Exodus Project presentation. The finale. The culmination, right?
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground. If y'all go through those videos, you're gonna get some good nuggets in there.
Yeah, a lot of this is going to be review, but we do have some new stuff in here as well. So let's get down to it. So Daniel's Christian warning.
Daniel 7:25. He shall speak words against the Most High. He shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change the times and the law. They shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. Daniel tells us what the beast will do. Who changed times and laws? The church.
Too easy.
This is
whose calendar does the majority of the world follow?
Yeah, it's a Gregorian calendar. The thing with this is there's nothing to argue about.
None.
I don't have to
Zero.
argue who changed it. Everybody knows the Christians reset the calendar to fit Jesus' birthday or birth. Like that's not. Why do we say BC? You know what I mean? Like that's nothing to argue about. So you can deny it and ignore it, but the facts is the beast that was spoken of that's going to change the times and laws is the church.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's too simple.
Very simple.
Simple.
And if we want to go a step further, tampering with the law, Hebrews 7:12, there's a change of the law. Hebrews 7:18, the commandment's weak and useless. Like, come on, who's playing with the Torah here?
Yeah, I mean, it's written. It's all over the place.
Yeah,
the whole New Testament. It's all over the place. And it wasn't really until the church took power as the ruling entity over really the whole Western world that you have these calendars and times and months and days being changed, right? So it's all right there. Just open up a history book,
Yeah, I have a 4 lecture series. Daniel warned us about Christianity. I break it all down, give you all the references you need.
So this one's going to be a different beast.
Rome has morphed over time from the pagan empire to the Jewish Christians, who were like the first Christians, Orthodox Christianity, and now today in our days, Republican and Democratic Christians, which, they have a Christian base, but not so religious,
Right.
more lenient
or Protestant Reformation Christianity as a whole would be a good way to put it. And even into Islam,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no two ways around it. Islam is a byproduct of Christianity. They believe in Jesus, not in the same magnitude as Christians do, but without Christianity, you have no Islam.
And in the Quran, it speaks about the Gospels. So yeah.
The Injil, whatever it's called.
The Injil, exactly. So now Muslims aren't so thrilled about Paul.
No.
And not so thrilled about the whole Jesus being God thing, but overall, the acceptance of the New Testament is in the Quran overall. And that's one of the things about this last beast is that it's since it morphs, we even see it has a lot of friends too.
Like sure.
Psalm 83, the tents of Edom stretch out. I'll put it like that. Read Psalm 83 for the reference to that.
Who is the beast?
After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So we know there's many, many, many different interpretations of this. So many people has written commentaries on this. So we're not going to go into trying to break down this verse because we've kind of covered that in the past videos, and I'm sure you got your own version. But the point is this: Romans 13:1, let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Now, this is Paul talking.
Yep.
So whatever this beast is, Paul said you had to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, put that in perspective. If it's a dreadful beast that's going to devour and break in pieces and stamp with its feet, it's exceedingly strong and dreadful. But Paul says, yeah, everybody, we're going to be subject to that. And if you don't, you're not listening to God. Read all of Romans 13 if you think I'm making that up. And guess what? I'm reading it out the book of Romans. How ironic.
Yeah. No kidding.
So,
seriously though, I mean, it's like over and over, it just tells on itself.
It does. It's right in your face, hidden in plain sight.
Yeah.
So, to follow up on that, if you refuse the mark, you're rebelling against the beast, aka the church. So, all those talking about the mark of the beast, okay. Well, if the beast is to be obeyed, then what's your choices here? Why have so many Christians written about Rome being the beast? So it's one thing for you to say, oh yeah, Davon, you and Steve, you guys are anti-New Testament, anti-missionary. Okay. What about the Christians that say Rome is the beast?
Yeah.
Look that up.
Early Christians.
Very early Christians, right? Revelation 13:4, and they worship the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like the beast and who can fight against it? Now, let's go into the history. Who has caused more destruction on earth in comparison to Christianity since its inception, right? Since Rome basically adopted Christianity, because the early Christians really didn't have no power. But once Rome got a hold of it.
And let's think about Rome prior to when Christianity took over it. What armies stood against Rome?
Right.
I mean, Rome took over the entire known world.
Yes, literally. Right? I mean, it really was a beast to the nations. I mean, if we just want to just deal with Israel, first they took over. I'm not gonna say they first, but when they took over Israel, we see what they did to them. They destroyed it and exiled the people.
Mm-hmm.
We know they went all over the place, right? Look at an ancient map and see where Rome put its feet. So, with that being said, let's look up some other things that they've done. Look up the law of discovery. What about the Inquisitions, the Crusades, Holocaust? Was Hitler a Christian? Look this up. Like for reals, look this up. Exile of England, nuclear bombs, 30 Years' War, the KKK. The KKK are, supposedly Christians, but what did they do, or what are they responsible for? What are they doing? Because they still exist.
Yeah, think about where their highest densities are in the Bible Belt, right?
Think about that. In the Bible Belt.
Isn't that crazy to think about? Burning crosses on people's front yards? Like in the Bible Belt.
In the Bible Belt. So when we talk about Rome morphing into Christianity and coming up with all these things, this is not, opinionated.
Sure.
Look up everything that's on the screen.
Destiny? I don't mean to cut you off. What about Manifest Destiny? Where the white man believed it was their God-given right to kill the natives in the United States.
Right,
Take over
which
the whole country.
fed the law of discovery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So look up everything that's on the screen and see who's behind it. This isn't, it's not me just giving you my opinion. Look it up.
Sure. And I don't want any comments of people attacking Davon on my channel because he's a person of color. I'm I'm a white man, and I'm in total agreement with everything he's saying. Right?
And his
I think
history.
manifest, like I
Yeah.
don't agree with manifest destiny. I don't agree with the KKK. I don't agree with any of these things. You know.
Get you an
So,
Encyclopedia Britannica and look it up. So yeah.
and the slave trade. Think about the slave trade itself. It was Spain that was really the the top dog and all that,
Yeah. I mean
right?
that's and see the thing is some things are just they're so normalized now as if
Mm-hmm.
slavery is just a part of history, but who were the people that were ruling? What did they believe in? Look up the good ship Jesus. Who was on that boat with Jesus' name on it? Look it up. This is
You're coming
this
after
is
him too
not us
early, Davon.
attacking Christianity. This is just telling the
Yeah,
historical record here.
history just is
Yeah,
what it is. We
yeah.
didn't
Who
write
is
it.
like the beast and who can fight against it? Okay. Who is like the beast and who can fight against it? I mean, United States has been a world power, and guess what? They've been Christian for the last hundreds and hundreds of years.
Sure.
Rome, Britain, today
Russia.
Britain's Russia. I mean, today Britain's kind of like an atheist country today, but in its inception, in like the first kings and queens, all Christian based.
Yeah, you wouldn't have the King James Bible without the Church of England. So,
You see that? Just facts after facts.
mhm.
So, you know,
So who is the Roman spokesman?
Acts 22 and 25. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said to the centurion who stood by, is it lawful for you to scourge a man who was a Roman and uncondemned? Paul is a Roman spiritual father, although Jesus said not to adopt this title. 3962 in the Strong's pater, how you can pronounce that however you want to. But father is what that basically means. So,
Hmm.
how interesting that you have Paul being a Roman who writes the book of Romans, who tells you to obey the Romans in Romans 13.
Hmm.
You can't make
Yeah.
that up. You can't make that up.
Mm-mm.
So, they got their own spokesman who's
And
supposedly a
whose
Jew.
and whose laws is he referencing when he says, "Is it lawful to scourge a man who is a Roman and uncondemned?"
Roman law, which is
He's
the
certainly
law
a
of the
proponent
land,
of getting rid
actually.
of. Yeah, sure. And he's certainly a proponent of getting rid of Torah law, but when it comes to Roman law, he's going to hang his hat on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He even calls for Caesar. I
Where was his
appeal
mind
to
at?
Caesar.
You know,
He appeals to Caesar. Like, come on. What are we talking about here?
other.
Pope, Latin Papa, from Greek Papa's father. The title since about the 9th century of the Bishop of Rome, the head of the Roman Catholic Church. And for those you don't know, it's held in tradition that Peter was the first pope. Matthew
Hmm.
23 and 9. Do not call anyone on earth your father, for one is your father, he who is in heaven. Now, when Jesus said that, he was on earth, so he wasn't talking about himself, depending on who you ask, right?
Right.
Philemon 1 and 10. Appeal to you for my son, Onesimus. I became his father while I was in chains. So, and we know Timothy, Paul calls Timothy his son in a few places, right? 1 Corinthians 4:15, for you may have countless instructors in Christ, but you don't have many fathers. For I became your father in Christ Jesus through the gospel. Now, we just read that Jesus says, don't call anybody on earth your father. What are the Catholic priests called today?
Father.
Father. I became your
Goes
father
to
in Christ.
just goes to show who they sided with.
Yeah, Christianity is really Paulinity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, if you even argue with a Christian, they're gonna go with what Paul said opposed to the Gospels.
Right.
9 out of 10 times, easy, easy. So
Sad truth, man. It really is.
it
That
it is.
basically every theological or doctrinal understanding they have of anything comes from the Pauline or Deutero-Pauline letters. And then basically just the Gospels and what Jesus said is storytelling, you
Yeah,
know?
because Paul doesn't quote Jesus very often,
Mm-mm.
like almost never. Paul the Roman, by the way. So it's very interesting that like you said, they sided with Paul on this father thing when Jesus says, do not do that. So, what's the excuse to just ignore that?
Right.
I don't know. This is something that the Christians have to struggle with, but it's very interesting. So, don't do that.
Oop. Worshipping images.
Rome is the governing authority. Their money has its image and language on it then and now. Yes. Look on the back of your money. What language is on your money? Novus Ordo Seclorum is what language? And who spoke that language?
Latin.
So you can see this at walkinsiderome.com. The eagle, Aquila or Aquila. Few symbols represent Rome as powerfully as the eagle. Perched atop the legendary standard, its wings outstretched as ferocious hunting bird represented the span of the Roman Empire. Don't we got an eagle on our money too?
Mm-hmm.
Judea Capta coins, also spelled Judea Capta, were a series of commemorative coins originally issued by the Roman Emperor Vespasian to celebrate the capture of Judea and the destruction of the Jewish Second Temple by his son Titus in 70 AD during the First Jewish Revolt. So they made money celebrating the destruction of the temple.
They made
So
money,
Rome,
and the archway in Rome depicts the carrying off of the menorah and the destruction of the temple.
yeah,
It's still there. You can see it.
very famous image,
The
right?
Titus archway. Yeah, you can go. You can still see it.
So let's back up a little bit. Doesn't Paul say obey the superior authorities? So that means if you revolted, if you was in this Jewish revolt, were there any Christians in that Jewish revolt? I'm gonna say yes, because there was a lot of Jewish Christians. To what extent, I don't know. But they rebelled against the empire. That's what a revolt is, right? So
Yeah.
according to Paul, they was supposed to do that. But according to Paul, if Jesus was the Messiah, that's exactly what he was supposed to do. I'm going to say that again. If
It's
Jesus
funny.
was the Messiah, he was supposed to rebel against the Roman Empire. So Romans 13 goes directly against what the Tanakh says the Messiah is supposed to do. He's
Sure.
not supposed to listen to the Romans. He's supposed to put an end to war when Rome is conquering the world with war.
Right. I mean, why else would the Gospels go out of their way to say the Jews are blind? They don't know what their Messiah is supposed to do
They
because they
destroyed the
had no
temple.
clue, no preconceived notion. Right.
I
Right. No
mean,
preconceived notion of a Messiah that's just going to lay down his life, you know, rather than someone who's going to retake Jerusalem and usher in a time of peace. It's damage control. We've said it 1,000 times. The Gospels are damage control because what was supposed to happen didn't happen.
didn't happen. Bar Kokhba, they thought he
Mm-hmm.
was the Messiah because he was beating the Romans. And when he failed, when he died and didn't fulfill the prophecies, they said, oh, he's not the Messiah. So
Sure.
when you put Jesus next to Bar Kokhba and you ask a Christian, why don't you believe Bar Kokhba was the Messiah? Oh, well, the Romans killed him and he didn't fulfill the prophecies.
What's funny is,
Really?
according to tradition, Bar Kokhba actually has a better resume because according to tradition, he laid a few foundational stones of the temple, the third temple. So he actually has a better resume than Jesus.
Well, all they're gonna say is all I ever hear, ever, and I'm gonna say that ever hear is it doesn't matter who got resurrected. As if the resurrection just trumps everything. When what did that
The
prove?
son of the woman by Elijah. How about that one? Or the Elisha raised the dead too. So
Right.
they're
See,
they're
they don't.
hundreds of years before JJ ever showed up. So who cares? And JJ
That's their
himself
trump card,
resurrected some
though.
people. Does that mean a man Lazarus? Maybe he's the Messiah.
Right. As if the resurrection proves anything. And let's say you was resurrected, you still didn't fulfill the prophecy, so you came back to life to
Right.
do what?
Yeah, it
Nothing.
means my man had two chances and messed up both times.
It actually makes it worse.
It does. It really does.
You
It
know
means
what
he
I'm
had two
saying?
chances.
So as far as the images go, so they have we have this eagle, we have the image of Jesus himself, right? I mean, statues of Jesus is all over the world. Brazil's got this big giant
Yeah.
Jesus that
Yep.
the whole place can see, right?
Uh-huh.
Even it says in the book of Romans, chapter 1, verse 23, you turn the image of God into a corruptible man. Deuteronomy chapter 4 says, don't worship images. Like, come on here. What's going on here? So the worshiping of images, the beast has an image. We see that in the book of Revelation, but
Hmm.
Christians worship the image of Jesus. And that eagle is on everything, like the money, like it was then and it is now.
Right.
And if it wasn't the eagle, we had the image of the emperor on the money. Well, we got the American presidents on the money today. And we had in the time of Jesus, when they asked him, should we be paying taxes? What did he say? Whose image is on the coin? Give Caesar's things to Caesar,
Yep.
which would fall in line with Romans 13, obey the superior authorities.
Exactly.
The beast, which is going to turn into the church.
Sure.
Luke 23 and 38. And an inscription also was written over him in letters of Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. This is the King of the Jews. So again, Novos Ordo Seclorum. The phrase Novos Ordo Seclorum is one of the two Latin mottos on the reverse side of the Great Seal of the United States. The other motto is Annuit Coeptis. So the motto Novus Ordo Seclorum was translated and added to the seal by Charles Thompson, a Latin expert who was involved in the design of the Great Seal as a new order of the ages. Thompson said it was to signify the beginning of the new American era. So again, we see Latin, which is of Roman not origin. I don't know if they invented the language, but they definitely were among the people who used it first. So it's in the New Testament, this verse, Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. So the phrase Novos Ordo Seclorum is Latin on your money. So the
Hmm.
beast is already on your money. You're already using a mark of the beast.
Sure.
Think about
Beginning of a
that, y'all.
new American era. Changing the times and the days.
And the money,
Amerigo Vespucci was an Italian fella, I believe. So there's a descendant of the Romans
more Latin.
founding founding America, right?
Come on. Come
Just
on.
all,
You're already using a mark of the beast. You buying and selling with Latin on your money and images of with an eagle image and the image of the emperor.
new
Think
order
about
of
that.
the ages, right? The new world
Think,
order. It's crazy. People don't
think,
even know.
y'all. Think. Do a little, historical math.
Yeah, it's wild. And people just don't even realize it. They don't even think about it. It's just it's it's so it's so just passed over in everyone's mind. They don't even give a second of thought to it, you know?
That's where we come in.
Yep.
Thank God that people study and thank God for all the rabbis and the students and the teachers that I've learned from. You know what I mean?
I
Even
mean,
Christians. I've even learned some stuff from Christians because, like we said, many Christians tell you that the beast is Rome.
yeah, like this fella's about to right here.
Right. So we're not just going on the tangent of attacking Christianity from our perspective. The Christians are telling on the church. So Benson commentary. You can, if you go to BibleHub.com, Benson commentary is on there, and I'm sure it's other places. So no name appears more proper and suitable than that famous one mentioned by Irenaeus, who lived not long after St. John's time, and it was the disciple of Polycarp, the disciple of St. John. He saith that the name Latinos contains the number of 666. And it's very likely because the last kingdom is so called, for they are Latins who now reign. It says the last kingdom, which would be the fourth beast before the Messiah would come, for they are Latins who now reign.
Yep.
Now, if he's a disciple of John, who, and it says they now reign, put that in a time frame. Do some historical math here. But in this we will not glory, that is, as it becomes a modest and pious man in a point of such difficulty. He will not be too confident of his explication. Latinos with A, or I guess that's AI,
So let's Latinos. Yep.
is the true orthography, as the Greeks wrote the long I of the Latins, and as the Latins themselves wrote in former times. No objection, therefore, can be drawn from the spelling of the name, and the thing agrees to admiration. For after the division of
If I can just pause you for 1 second,
sure,
you know, the 666 number is really, it's always, mulled over as to what it could mean. There are a bunch of opinions. You have this one of Irenaeus that it's the Latins, right? You have Titus, and you also have Nero.
right?
But what's funny is there's a common denominator here.
Rome,
Whichever option you pick, it's a Roman figure, whether it's all the Romans, the one who destroyed the temple, or the one before who destroyed, one of the ones before the temple destruction. Like it's across the board. Even if whichever one you pick, you come up with the same common denominator, Rome.
and it's funny that it's three of them. So we have a trinity.
Oh wow.
That's what made me like, wait a minute, that's three. Oh, so we got a Trinitarian 666 combination here. If it's 666, because we know some manuscripts say 616.
Some of the oldest ones say 616.
So, do with that what you will. But it's interesting that the Trinity of the beast.
The unholy trinity here, right? Yeah.
That's
Yeah, whichever one you pick, it's
man.
Rome in some form or way, whether it's the Latins as a whole, Titus who destroyed the temple, or Nero who persecuted the Christians, right?
How ancient is so why are y'all looking for a beast to come in the future when they all are pointed to when it says now reign?
Yeah. Yeah.
Titus came and went. Nero came and went. Come on, y'all. The Latins. Now today you have a lot of Spanish
This
people who
probably would have
speak
been around the
Spanish.
time of Domitian or something. I mean, don't quote me on that, but this is way later. So it's still Roman emperors in control, right?
I mean, Irenaeus, disciple of John. I get, yeah, you know what I mean? Only thing like today, you got a lot of Spanish speaking people that call themselves Latino, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. So I don't want nobody
Latin
to get
America.
confused. Right. They
It
call
got,
it Latin America. You know what I mean?
it's got
So
that
is
name
that the beast?
because they're
South America, the beast?
yeah. Well, it comes from because Spanish, Portuguese, all these languages are Romance languages. They come from Latin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
That's why Italian and Spanish are so close.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that. I don't know that, but makes sense to me.
No, it's true. It's true. Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, French, and Romanian, I think.
Mm. Interesting. Very interesting. So where was I at? For after the division of the empire, the Greeks and other Orientalists called the people of the Western Church or Church of Rome Latins, and they Latinize in everything: mass, prayers, hymns, litanies, canons, decretals, bulls are conceived in Latin. The papal council speaks in Latin. Women themselves pray in Latin. Nor is the scripture read in any other language under popery than Latin. Wherefore, the Council of Trent commanded the vulgar Latin to be only the authentic version. Nor do their doctors doubt to prefer to Hebrew and Greek text itself, which is written by the prophets and apostles. In short, all things are Latin. The Pope, having communicated his language to the people under his dominion, as the mark, as the mark and the character of his empire. They themselves indeed choose rather to be called Romans and more absurdly still Roman Catholics, and probably the apostle, as he had made use of some Hebraic names in this book as Abaddon and Armageddon, so might this place likewise alludes to the name in the Hebrew language. Now, Romith is the Hebrew name for the Roman beast or Roman kingdom. And this word, as well as the former word Latinos, contains the just and exact number of 666. I don't think y'all even realize what I just read.
I don't think Benson even realizes what he wrote. Like, how could he write a commentary like this and still be a Christian? Like,
maybe he was waking up.
maybe.
He sounds like he got an eye open at least. He knows at least he's sleeping with one eye open if he ain't. You know what I mean? So I mean, this is some serious information that we just read on
Right.
this
And
commentary.
this is a fundamentalist Protestant Christian who wrote this. It's not like this isn't the commentary of Davon and Steve. This is
This
the
ain't the
Benson commentary,
rabbis.
right?
Yeah.
This is a mainstream Christian wrote this down, you know?
This is serious. This is very serious.
And
So
even he attributes a branch of the, his parent church really, because anything after Roman Catholicism is really a daughter church of it, an offshoot. So he really called his parent church the beast and cites Irenaeus of saying the same thing. And Irenaeus was the bishop of Lyon in France. So it's pretty eye-opening that
it
Christians are
is.
quoting church fathers saying, this stuff's already come to pass. The Roman church is the bad guy,
And that's the takeaway. If this is being read or written so long ago, and they're telling you the last sentence, now Romith is the Hebrew name for the Roman beast. Now, if I didn't read this commentary and me and Steve didn't do any videos prior to this, they'd be like, oh, where are you getting that from? You just saying that. Bro, I don't need to make up anything. I don't
Right.
need to make up anything about Rome being the beast. Don't blame Rabbi Singer for saying, "Oh, Rome is the beast." Look at the Christians.
Yeah, look at what your own church fathers say. Yeah.
So yeah, that one, that's
And
it.
I'm sorry to anyone who's going to say, "Oh, we don't accept the church fathers' authority, anything like that." Well, sorry to break it to you, Protestants, but you had nothing but the Catholic Church and the church fathers until the 16th century. So, sorry, I don't know what else to tell you. Like your later sola scriptura interpretations didn't even exist until 400 years ago, 500 years ago. So,
Everything was Latin. We just read that. Everything was Latin. So the beast is the Roman Church. The false prophet would be Paul. The image is of Jesus, Mary, and the ego. There's statues of Mary all over the place too, y'all. And side note, I seen a lecture the other day putting Mary in the light of a goddess named Artemis. I thought that was kind of interesting. So look up the similarities.
That's the sister of Apollo, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And she had he wasn't like her boyfriend, but he was like somebody she knew named Orion, and Orion was resurrected and walked on water. So, something to think about. So the mark, the cross, branding, tattoos showing ownership, language, because we read about this mark that they put on we just read about how the language was one of the marks that the Latins put down. The number Latin 666 or 616, but the most popular is 666. But you have the Trinity, you have the Roman beast of Titus, Nero. What was the other one?
The Latins themselves.
The Latins themselves. The Latins themselves, which were the Romans themselves, were equal to 666. And then the two of their emperors, Titus and Nero, 666. Why are you waiting for a beast when you already have the language, you already have the money system? And this is ancient. This is not changed over time.
It's cognitive dissonance, man. It's a product of things not coming to pass. So they have to rework and rethink everything and make it in the future so it all makes sense. When if they looked into the past, it would make a whole lot more sense.
And a person that doesn't know his past doesn't know his future.
Definitely. Well said.
Yeah. New Testament polemics. So Paul's teaching on eating food sacrificed to idols is condemned. Acts 15:20. Instead, we should write to them, telling them to abstain from food polluted by idols, from sexual immorality, from the meat of strangled animals, and from blood. 1 Corinthians 8:7. But not everyone possesses this knowledge. Some people are still so accustomed to idols to when they eat sacrificial food, they think of it, as having been sacrificed to a god. And since their conscience is weak, it is defiled. But food does not bring us near to God. We are no worse if we did not eat and no better if we do. Be careful, however, that the exercise of your right does not become a stumbling block to the weak. For if someone with a weak conscience sees you with all your knowledge eating in an idol's temple, won't that person be emboldened to eat what is sacrificed to idols? So this weak brother or sister for whom Christ died is destroyed by your knowledge. Revelation 2:20. Nevertheless, I have this against you. You tolerate that woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophet. By her teaching, she misleads my servants into sexual morality and the eating of food sacrificed to idols.
Doesn't Isaiah 53 say that they will redeem the nations with their knowledge?
Yeah, it says by his knowledge my servant will justify many. Knowledge, says, not blood.
Right. Paul says that you're defiling people, destroying people because of your knowledge.
Yeah. Because you eat food sacrificed to idols, but you know what you're doing. They don't know what they're doing.
How convenient.
So
Mighty Paul strikes again.
Paul strikes again.
Don't share your knowledge. Don't share your knowledge. Just keep it to yourself and avoid these things, right?
And you're going to confuse people. If they see you eating food sacrificed to idols, then they're going to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Well, the question is, why are you saying it's okay for them to eat food sacrificed to idols just because they have some knowledge? Knowledge of what? Knowledge of idolatry, because that's what they're doing.
Sure.
If you
I'm sure the word there is gnosis. Gnostic. Sure, the word there is gnosis. If you know better, right? If you have this spiritual knowledge, it's okay because you know that the statue being offered to isn't real. But the dummies behind you don't know that. So, just keep an eye out for what you're doing. But if you, eat it at home, who cares? As long as you know what you're doing, that it means nothing. That's not really how it works,
So basically, the book of Revelation tells you if anybody teaches you this, they're misleading you. It clearly says. Yeah, clearly says in Revelation chapter 2. She misleads my servants into sexual immorality and the eating of food sacrificed to idols. that would apply to, I would assume, anybody who's teaching you those two sins. Sexual immorality is a sin, and idolatry is a sin. Eating food sacrificed to idols is idolatry.
Mm-hmm.
Read Numbers chapter 25, where Israel specifically got into trouble, big time trouble, for eating food sacrificed to idols.
Yep.
With Moab.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that you do not do.
What else did they do with Moab?
Sexual immorality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In front of everybody. And Phineas had to come and get himself an eternal covenant by making it stop, which is another reason why the book of Hebrews lies and said that the priesthood is changed when Phineas got an eternal covenant.
Yeah.
When he did that. When did that get broke? It didn't.
Because he was a man of peace. You think they would quote that?
He was a prince of peace.
Uh-huh. Oh.
Interesting. So, like it says, New Testament polemics. So that's what you get. Paul versus Jesus.
We have a whole show on polemicized New Testament.
Right. So Paul versus Jesus. Luke 16:17. It is easier for heaven and earth to disappear than for the least stroke of a pen to drop out of the law. Ephesians 2:15. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, that is the law of commandments contained in ordinances, so as to create in himself one new man from the two, thus making peace. Romans 6:14, for sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace. Isaiah 26, I believe this is verse 10.
Verse 9.
Verse 9 and 10, I'm sorry. The 9 is pretty little. With my soul I have desired you in the night. Yes, by my spirit within me I will seek you early. For when your judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. Let grace be shown to the wicked, yet he will not learn righteousness. In the land of uprightness he will deal unjustly and will not behold the majesty of the Lord.
Pretty cut and dry there, I'd say.
Pretty cut and dry. Jesus says the law will continue until heaven and earth pass. Paul says it's been abolished. And you're not under the law, but under grace. Isaiah says if you give grace to the wicked, he will not learn righteousness. And he will not behold the majesty of the Lord. And he will deal unjustly. He's going to be a bad person. You don't give grace to the wicked. Because we read in the Tanakh, God gave grace to the humble.
Mm-hmm.
I believe James even says that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Paul and James didn't rock together. They didn't see eye to eye either. So if James says God gives grace to the humble, the Tanakh says God gives grace to the humble. You can't go with what Paul is saying here. Because he even doesn't, agree with Jesus. And like we said earlier, the Christians are going to listen to Paul over Jesus because Paul's very convenient. Paul's Rabbi Manoah, which means Rabbi, what's comfortable.
Yeah.
Just so you know. That's a joke I heard from Rabbi Mizrahi.
Just to break this down real simple, Paul equates grace to lawlessness, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Isaiah says grace is given to those who are righteous, aka those who maintain God's laws and do what's right. That's complete. Are you going to trust Isaiah or are you going to trust Paul? It's completely the opposite thing.
Completely.
In Paul's view, grace abolishes the law. In Isaiah's view and the Torah view, grace is a product of maintaining the law, right?
Yeah.
Doing what's right.
If he gives grace to the humble, humility is submitting and putting down your ego so you can keep the Torah. When it says Noah found favor or Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Why? Because it says Noah was righteous.
Right.
Genesis 9. Or Genesis 6 and 9. 6, 8 through 9.
So nefarious, man. It really is.
I mean,
but then when it comes to keeping Rome's laws, Paul's all about it.
All about it. Appealing to Caesar and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work? Romans 13, let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. You just said it. You said Paul upholds Roman law. We just read that it says he abolished the Torah because it had ordinances. What does he write right here? Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinances of God.
And those who resist will bring judgment upon themselves, right? I thought you were under grace.
Matthew 23, 1-3. Then Jesus spoke to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Therefore, whatever they tell you to observe, that observe and do, but do not do according to the works, for they say and do not do. So who gives the beast its authority? Paul, telling you to listen to the governing authorities, which would be the Romans, or Jesus telling you to listen to the scribes and Pharisees. So would the scribes and Pharisees be included in the Roman authority in Romans 13? Probably not. So who are you going to listen to? Paul or Jesus? Like the comedians say, who's
Even
your daddy?
Josephus, a lot of Christians like to hang their hat on Josephus, right?
Yeah.
But even Josephus says in the first book of Wars of the Jews that the Pharisees had the most perfect interpretation of the law.
What do you do with that? Paul's going to win anyway, which we see it through history. Paul won that argument. So overall, when you talk to any of your Christian friends, pastors, ministers, priests, Paul trumps the word of Jesus, ladies and gentlemen. Just so you know that.
Yep.
Because right here in Romans, it says if you resist that authority, Paul's a Roman, and the church is of Rome, right? And they don't listen to the scribes and Pharisees, you're not listening to Jesus.
Right.
It's black and white. Matthew 28:18, and Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Not according to Paul. That authority was given to the beast. Revelations 13:2. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. Is Jesus the dragon?
That's a conflation of all four beasts together.
So that if the dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority, but Jesus said he got all the authority, is Jesus the dragon? Revelation 13:4. So they worship the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who was like the beast, who was able to make war with him. So let's think about this. If Jesus has all authority, and this dragon gave authority to the beast, and Rome is the beast, and their God is Jesus, that would make Jesus the dragon and Rome the beast, which became the church. Is why nobody can make war with it, because the church morphed over time and became all these empires like we've talked about. Do y'all see where this is going? Do y'all see where this is going? Like you just can't make it up. Revelation 13:12. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Jesus was killed and was resurrected, right? So was he a beast that was killed and resurrected? Or was this Nero? Look this up if you don't believe me. Nero was said to have come back. He was a Roman emperor who was killed and was wounded, but he was supposedly come back. There was also fake Neros who claim to be Nero that have come back. So y'all see, this is still in Rome.
Or was it Rome itself, as Augustine believed, that when Rome fell, Christian Rome rose from the ashes?
There you go. Either way, we still have the saying, all roads lead to Rome.
Mm-hmm. And
Revelations, go
and
ahead.
we've mentioned it before. You wouldn't even have the book of Revelation if Augustine didn't believe that. So
Yeah, Steve's got a whole lecture on that. So Exodus Project, check that out. Revelation 17:12-13. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. Who's giving them this authority? Because Jesus has it all, according to Matthew 28:18. Those are of one mind, and they will give their power and the authority to the beast.
mm-hmm.
Who's getting their power from the beast? And who was the beast getting his power from? The dragon. But Jesus got all the authority. So where did the dragon get his authority? Think. What's your book really telling you here? What's it really telling you here? This is where wisdom comes in, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
So Thessalonians 2:9, the coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders. Who is the lawless one or antichrist? John 17:12. While I was with him in the world, I kept them in your name. Those whom you gave me, I have kept, and none of them is lost except the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled. 1 Thessalonians 2:3. Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition. 1 John 4:3. Every spirit that does not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard was coming and is now already in the world. So why are you waiting on a beast or an Antichrist when the New Testament tells you that they are already here?
Yep.
In the time the New Testament was written in the first century.
Or prior.
Or prior,
If the son of
depending on who you
perdition,
ask. Yeah.
the son of perdition is Judas,
Mm-hmm.
and you believe Judas was a contemporary with Jesus, that's the 30s.
Yeah. Then you have Paul saying that the person who's going to be the Antichrist has to stand in the temple, which would make that Titus.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, and then you got John that's saying everybody who does not confess Jesus is the Antichrist that's already in the world. Again, we got a trinity of beliefs concerning who the Antichrist is. So we got a trinity of beliefs of who the beast is, and a trinity of beliefs of who the Antichrist is in the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
In the New Testament, like, come on, y'all. Like, let's put this all together. So if the lawless one, according to the working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders, how did he get all this power if all the authority's been given to Jesus?
Did he give it away? Did Jesus give that power away?
He made a deal with them demons to go into the pigs. Maybe he made a deal with Satan. I don't know. Don't be mad at me, y'all. That's what it say.
And what do you think about picking up here next time?
I was gonna say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a good spot to leave off. So I'll
I think that's a nice recap of how we're gonna, finish off this series, because we're not trying to get anybody to believe anything. First of all, we're not looking to change your mind. We're just giving you the information. Look it up for yourselves, read it, study it, pray on it, whatever you need to do, internalize it, bounce it off of people, ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to come to your own conclusion anyway,
Sure. Do with it what you will. Just hope it opens some eyes and you can make the connections and yeah.
Because it takes a while, sometimes
Sure, definitely.
it's a relationship that you've probably had since you were a young child. You went to sleep, woke up with the church and Christianity in your mind. So I get it. It's really something embedded in your subconscious, really.
Definitely.
It's
For
part of
sure.
your spiritual makeup. So, we're not trying to, like I said, we're not trying to convert people and say, oh, you're stupid or nothing like that. It's just, this is the information that you probably were not aware of, because I wasn't aware of a lot of this stuff. Most
Right.
people are not, except for the scholars, and they're in
Yeah.
their
And
scholar circles.
most of them are atheists. So most Christians wouldn't listen to them anay, so they're never going to
Anyway,
get that
yeah.
info.
If you're not in
You
those
know?
little circles of people talking about this stuff, you're not going to know about the Benson commentary about the
Right.
Latinos. Who talks about that at church?
Yeah.
Nobody. So,
There's no Protestants having their parishioners read church fathers' writings. None.
no, that's not happening. So yeah, we'll end off there. And yeah, man, thanks for having me once again.
Yeah, of course. Always. It's always a pleasure. But